Hi folks and welcome to Gersnet, the Independent Rangers podcast, YouTube channel, website and all-round social media empire by fans, for fans, for all your content's absolutely free, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson and I'll be your host for this, the sixth in our series of World Cup bonus podcasts, the penultimate in this little series because tomorrow, the third, fourth place playoff takes place, and on Sunday we'll have the 22nd World Cup final, which I'm sure we're all really looking forward to. Even though, and I always like to point this out, we know, we're well aware of the kind of the human rights abuses that have been going on in Qatar, long before even the World Cup arrived there, the number of migrant workers that have died, and just laying on this World Cup, providing building the stadiums and providing the infrastructure. Please check back our previous pods where we go into that in a lot of detail, and even give advice on organisations that you can contact or you can donate to help compensate the families of the migrant workers that have lost their life. We're not going into this with any kind of degree of naivety, other than the naivety of a football fan who just can't help looking forward to the greatest show on earth, the conclusion of the World Cup, which is taking place on Sunday. And joining me to analyse this momentous weekend for football is probably the best person I could ask, and it's Mr. Brian Archer. Brian, you've been loving this World Cup as much as me. How much are you looking forward to this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We got the final that I wanted out of the semi-finals. It was a France-Argentina final I wanted, so there's plenty of narrative in there. I'm really looking forward to it. I think we'll get a really good game. And also looking forward to the third, fourth place playoff tomorrow night. I think that'll be a really intriguing game. So yeah, it's going to be a really good end to what has on the pitch been a pretty good tournament, I think.
I'm just sitting here trying to, my natural instinct is just to start throwing out the weekend of stats. Didier Deschamps could be only the second manager to win the World Cup twice. He's already one of, I think, is it 4 players that have won it as manager and player. You've got Mbappe trying to become the first player to score in successive finals of the World Cup since Vava 70 years ago. France themselves trying to retain the World Cup. No one else has done that since Vava's team, Brazil team of 58 and 62. Before that, the only other side to do it was Vittorio Pozzo's Italy in 1934 and 38, Pozzo being the other manager to win 2 successive World Cups. So I'm going to have to shut up because we're starting to forget this is Gersnet. So we need to do what it says on the tin and have a wee chat about the Teds. And thankfully it's after our second half comeback, that's a pleasant task this evening. What did you make of Michael Beale's competitive debut?
Yeah, it was a real game of two halves. There was a lot in that first half to forget, but there was a lot of good positive things in the second half. I think we started to play a lot more like a Michael Beale team, and like how he kind of said that he wanted his team to play in the build up to the game. So that was positive. Yeah, there's a lot. Until there's a lot of work for him to do on the training pitch. There's still a lot of work to be done to kind of embed his ideas into this team. But a win in the first game, you can't really ask for much more than that, particularly given the injuries that we had as well. So I'm kind of willing to give him a bit of a pass on the defensive horror show in the first half, given the fact that we had 2 midfielders in there. Hopefully we won't see that again in any time in the near future. So yeah, it was a win at all cost game, so I'll take it.
I mean, not in any way try to blow my own trumpet. In fact, I try to kind of excuse my bad patter because I found myself saying on the preview pod we did for the Hibs game that maybe winning it heavily, winning that game 4 or 5-0 and having an all singing, all dancing kind of debut for Michael Beale would be a bad thing in the long run.
Yeah.
And it's like you're a Rangers fan saying you don't want Rangers to win heavily. That sounds a bit like almost like you're getting your excuses in first.
Yeah, I actually think coming from behind will really do this team good. Having that kind of character building in that first game, showing that kind of spirit. Where in the second half, we really penned them in and we really kind of built that pressure where it felt like a goal was coming. I've not really had that feeling for Rangers for a while where you just feel like the goal coming because we had Hibs penned in their own box essentially and we didn't let them out. And, when one attack broke down, we got the ball back pretty quickly and straight on the attack again. So that was really positive, and I think that'll stand the team in good stead. Hopefully we don't need to do that too often in terms of coming from behind, but it's not a bad way to start, I would say.
I think we were talking about how we started under Gio just over a year ago when he made his debut as manager, and we were off to a flyer. It was like 7 straight wins in the league, but then the old kind of problems came back, and it's almost, I hate that phrase, papering over the cracks. If you're winning games, you're winning games. But I think last night it was almost like we faced up to all our problems straight away. And, there's nobody's going to go away kidding themselves on it. They've all been resolved, as Beale himself was saying. So it was probably quite good to have a kind of modest win in terms of the scoreline and see enough of the old bad Rangers that got Gio sacked, but enough of the good stuff that Michael Beale's kind of bringing in. So all around a good game. But yourself, Chris Jack and Colin Armstrong will be back in the main pod on Sunday night, Brian, to discuss that in more detail, give that the proper analysis. You and I are here for the World Cup stuff. A lot to get through, so let's get to it. First thing we've got to do is, with great pleasure, review Argentina 3, Croatia 0 on the first of the semi-finals on Tuesday night. Thought it was an absolutely fantastic occasion. Even just watching the television, I think the noise for the Argentina fans, this song they've got, the Muchachos song.
Yeah.
I remember, I think we're at that stage, that thing, that this, as I was saying, this is why the sports washing works, where even like the advertising, we've already forgot about the fact that it's in Qatar. We forgot all about the political problems. I've even started forgetting about the constant, adverts going up all around the stadium, for Qatar Energy and Coca-Cola and McDonald's. Yeah. The thing you take away from these tournaments is the players and the fans. And I think that's bad. A lot of World Cups, it's all kind of, complimentary tickets, and it's, the actual real kind of invested punters, emotionally invested punters get kind of sidelined. But it was the same at Brazil 2014. The Argentina fans had this song, to the tune of Bad Moon Rising, the old Maradona, que más grande Pelé, Maradona's better than Pelé, and it's something that stayed with me all the time, and it's now become, the Rangers fans have used the same tune for the follow Glasgow Rangers song. So we're always trying to kind of justify why Rangers fans and our Rangers podcast are talking about the World Cup so extensively, but because it affects every aspect of football over the globe. Definitely affects us, and this was one of those moments. This Muchachos song that's been coming up, it's all about, they're talking about the Falklands and what have you, but it talks about how much they hated losing previous finals, how much it pained them, and how Maradona's up in heaven now and he's watching and backing Messi, and it's a beautiful thing, and that just rhythmic kind of lilting thing that really went along with the way Argentina played in this game, I thought, Brian. Would you want a more competitive game? Because I think it was kind of done and dusted, almost by half time. And Messi, what we're all looking for, that he's going to get a second chance in the World Cup final to win the ultimate game. Did you want Croatia to play better? Did you want it to be tighter, or did you just enjoy the show?
I mean, I did think Croatia would kind of put up a bit more of a fight. I thought it would have been tighter, but to be honest, the quality was on show. You can't really argue against that. We got a fantastic game. We seen Messi, almost rolling back the years with some of that skill. It was just, some of it was just ridiculous what he was doing at his age. It was really a joy to watch. When you compare the kind of twilight years of his career versus the twilight years of Ronaldo's career, he's having this real Indian summer, whereas Ronaldo's career is kind of petering out to a bit of a better end, and it's incredible to watch, to be honest. And I'm choking on to the final later, but I hope that he goes all the way and lifts it for me. So I was really delighted to see Argentina win and Messi play a massive part in that.
And credit to yourself, you've been pointing out from day one doing these pods how Messi's been pacing himself in games, how he's been picking his moments, but unlike Ronaldo, like as you're kind of saying, Ronaldo's been kind of almost an indulgence. He's a kind of an extra that Portugal are getting to the stage they can't afford to carry him almost. Whereas Messi is definitely carrying Argentina, and they know how to use him, don't they?
Yeah, and the other thing is, the other players, they look like they genuinely enjoy playing with him in a way that it doesn't always seem the case with other figures like Ronaldo or Neymar, who their team's also built around. But you feel like the Argentinian players have got more of a connection with Messi than the others. So it's really good to watch. It's good to see, and hopefully, as I say, he goes on and wins it.
It's like he needs them and they need him, kind of thing, in equal measure. And I think it was summed up for me as a bit. What goal was it? The second goal, I think, the one that's knocked forward, it's knocked long forward, and Alvarez ends up getting a few ricochets, a few rebounds, and in it goes. But it came from a Croatia corner. That was the whole thing about it. Summing up the determination of this Argentina team. The ball gets cleared slightly, and it's kind of bouncing about outside the Argentina box, and Messi's kind of right in the middle of the pitch. And normally you would see a defender, even a midfielder, just lumping it forward at that point. But that doesn't happen this time. He actually just comes up and I don't know who it is. I think it might be Otamendi, but instead of punting the thing up the park, he actually picks out neither of the players that are. There's a couple of players at either side of him, but he goes for Messi, who's actually much further away and has got Croatia players right on top of him. And you're thinking, I didn't notice it at the time, but looking back on it, you're thinking that was actually normally that'd be a suicidal move, but Messi just with one touch just plays Alvarez through, and you can see how it's not, as we're saying, it's not Portugal kind of indulging Ronaldo. It's like Argentina needing Messi and Messi needing his teammates, but he made it happen, and he scored the penalty before that. He wasn't involved in the build up for that. And then he's what he's done to Gvardiol for the third goal was just different level. And I think, Brian, I was thinking about what you'd said. I thought that summed it up really. He's been pacing himself within games, but there it showed him doing it within a move. He's basically helped that ball from the halfway, and he was turning him inside out, then having a wee breather.
Yeah,
keeping the ball, then starting to turn him inside out again. And Gvardiol didn't know whether he was coming or going, did he?
I thought what was even more extraordinary was he looked as if he was feeling his hamstring at points in the first half, and they were wondering if he was maybe feeling a bit of an injury, and then he goes and does that, and that's just ridiculous, to be honest. It's to do that kind of skill, as we say, we know that kind of he's coming towards the end of his career, but he's still got that in his locker. And it'll be a sad day when Messi has to retire, I'll say that.
Well, that's it. It was kind of red rum stuff. I was watching him because it's when he come back out for the second half, they're about to kick off. He's really feeling his leg, and you're thinking, why the hell? Because they're 2-0 up. Why is he risking it? They could probably see out the game from here. Why would they risk it? Why would they risk missing the final? But apparently, he was asked, do you want to go on? And he had absolutely no problems doing that, and then to actually do what he did. I mean, Gvardiol's not been turned inside out like that since he backward headed the ball on the feet of John Lundstrom for a certain Europa League semi-final back in May. But this is only a World Cup semi. That's not as good as that, but we'll keep going with this. So we can't help talking about Messi. Everybody's talking about Messi this weekend. We've covered why we want to see him win the cup and the fact that he's done everything but win it. Winning the Olympics, winning the Youth World Cups. In international terms, he's lost a final. He's won a Copa America. He's done everything internationally except win that World Cup, and he's actually taken it further because the other night he drew level with Mbappe for the leading goal scorer. I know the actual golden boot is decided on assists for the tiebreaker, but for me, it's just, in terms of the goals scored, that's him and Mbappe both on 5 goals each. I think him and Mbappe are both so kind of central to their team getting this far that they're both probably in line for the golden ball. As soon as he steps onto that park on Sunday, he'll beat Lothar Matthäus' record of 25 appearances in World Cup finals matches. It'll be Messi's 26th. He's on 11 goals in World Cup finals, in finals tournaments. So there's now only 5 players ahead of him in terms of World Cup finals scoring. Next on the list is Pele on 12, as if he's ticking off the greats. He's equalled Maradona's feat of leading Argentina to 2 finals, and he needs to win one probably to be considered equal or better than Maradona. Surely the way he's done it, like Maradona, almost single-handedly dragging a good but limited side all the way, means all ideas that he's any kind of failure in the eyes of the Pantheon or in the eyes of Argentinians could just be tossed aside. He's a legend in every sense of the word now, is he not?
He is, for me, definitely. I remember when he was at Barcelona, and there was a lot of talk about a lot of Argentinians didn't really view him as Argentinian because he'd spent most of his life in Spain. I think he's been at Barcelona since he was 8 or 9, and there was that kind of tension there almost when he went to play for Argentina. But now he just looks so comfortable in that squad and in the position that he's in that team. It just looks so natural, as if it was always meant to be. There definitely feels like there's something written in the stars that for him to lift the trophy at the end of it. It just feels so perfect as a way to kind of a swan song, if you like, to his kind of international career. not many players get that kind of perfect ending, but it feels like it's meant to be for Messi.
That's what we're talking about, and of course symbolism. I'm the world's worst for seeing symbolism everywhere, and 9 times out of 10 it gets thrown back in your face at some point. But we're talking after the Holland game when they played the Netherlands in the quarter-final about how he'd had a clear handball they got away with, and that was a wee kind of nod in a World Cup quarter-final, the same as Diego with the hand of God moment, and then they chucked a 2-goal lead, which is what Diego's Argentina did in the 1986 final before they actually won it. And then I thought the other day I just saw something, and you won't remember this, Brian, but you maybe seen the footage. It's when they go through for that, when Alvarez scores the second goal, once Messi sends them through, it's the ricochets. I think I don't know. It comes off a couple of Croatia defenders. They kick it back onto Alvarez, and then he gets it. He gets it back, and he loses control, and it comes off another defender onto him. I think it's Sosa, the chap that's taking Borna's place, or taking Borna Barisic's place. It's Borna Sosa, and then he kind of almost stumbles it past the goalkeeper. It was so reminiscent. People have been slagging it all week. It's the worst great individual goal ever, but I think it was so reminiscent of Mario Kempes for Argentina in the 1978 World Cup final. The second goal he scored in that game, the one that put them ahead in extra time, and eventually they won 3-1. And even Alvarez, the commentator for the BBC, was screaming about how he's from River Plate. He's at Man City just now, obviously, but he's from the River Plate school. And it was in River Plate Stadium, the Monumental, that Kempes, another River Plate player, scored that goal. I just feel as if it's written in the stars now. Is it just going to be a massive gunk on Sunday?
Well, France have got their own ambitions in terms of that's what I like about this final. You've got the narrative of the fairy tale ending for Messi, and then you've got France trying to be only the second team to win it to retain the World Cup, and you've kind of got those two narratives. It just makes for a fascinating match. I think it'll go one or two ways. We'll get a classic, or it'll be a bit of a damp squib, and it'll go to penalties. But I'm hoping we get a classic.
Aye, certainly, mate, certainly. And the other semi-final, you say, it's France, Argentina will play, because on Wednesday night, France beat Morocco 2-0. And I feel a bit guilty about this, Brian, because I'm so, I'm talking about symbolism. I'm also, a bit mad on the stats or in my belief in the stats, which again, lies and statistics. But for me, I didn't think there was any chance Morocco were ever going to get to the final, which seems crazy, because I think they'd only lost 1 goal in the whole tournament, while France hadn't kept a clean sheet yet. But you've got like Bulgaria 1994, Chile 1962. Even you go back to the very first, World Cup finals in 1930. The USA got to the semis, a team full of Scotsmen. I think only since the war, you've England 1966 and the Netherlands in 74 have actually got into a World Cup final from their first ever World Cup semi-final. Did the weight of history kind of get to Morocco? Or was it their injuries? Or were France just always going to be too good for them?
I think France are the better team. I think for me that's just, a matter of fact, to be honest. But I would have been interested to see what a full strength Morocco team could have done, because I always feel like France just now, I always feel like they're playing a bit in third gear. I feel like they've got a few more notches to go up if they need it. Yeah. Sometimes I just feel like they're not quite going full throttle yet. We've seen good individual performances from players like Griezmann. Mbappe's played in moments. Giroud's obviously having a good tournament, but I just feel like as a team they've got a couple of notches to go up. So I would have been really interested to see if a fully fit Morocco team could have brought that out of them. And in the end, I think they beat Morocco with a bit to spare. Although, to be honest, I think you've got to give Morocco credit. They played well on the night, and Lloris made a few good saves. But I think on the balance of things, I think France are the better team, and they're deservedly in the final. But I think Morocco deserve huge credit for their performance over the whole tournament, and even in that game. They made some good chances. Lloris had to pull off some good saves. It'll be interesting to see how they develop over the next couple of tournaments in terms of the next World Cup, and they've got a lot of young players that I think off the back of this will be looking for bigger moves. I think the young midfielder Amrabat, he looks like he'll be kind of a lot of clubs chasing him, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And I do like the manager they've got. He seems to get them well organised, and they've got a good structure about them. They know their kind of identity and how they want to play. So it'll be interesting to see. I think a few clubs might try and entice him away, but it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think the better team won on the night, but I'd give Morocco huge credit.
That's the thing. I felt as if they lose a player just before kickoff, which is something they actually did earlier in the tournament with the goalkeeper. And that didn't faze them at all at that point. And then they've lost somebody after 21 minutes when they're already a goal down. They have to make another change at half time, and they get to the stage in the game they were subbing substitutes. It really was, and I feel as if in the quarterfinals, France, England took France to the wire, but France had what it takes, kind of thing, and it was almost like it's in their system because of 2018, whereas Morocco, absolutely momentous. They beat Portugal the same day. But it was like the celebrations and how much it took for them to beat Portugal. Almost kind of made it they'd no chance. That was too drained in a kind of physical in a mental sense. I feel as if there's a lot of patronising sympathy for Morocco, but it's a team full of players from like Serie A, La Liga. Like guys from Bayern, Chelsea, West Ham as well. Has them becoming the first semi-finalists from their continent instead actually shown up how African sides have been underperforming at most World Cups?
I think that's an interesting kind of point to ponder. I think definitely African nations have produced, some phenomenal players. I mean, Sadio Mane, Didier Drogba, to name but two. So there is an argument to say with the quality of players that they've produced, they should have been, getting to last 16's quarterfinals. Hopefully, with Morocco being the first to reach the semi-final, you might just see more African nations get into the latter stages. It's definitely something I'd like to see. I think the World Cup as a whole would benefit from kind of more different nations getting to the latter stages rather than it just being your Brazils and Germanys and France and Argentina. We want some different nations getting to the kind of latter end of the tournament. So hopefully that's something we can see. Morocco have got some quality players, as you said. They've got players that play with Chelsea, Bayern Munich. Real top quality players. So I definitely think they can kick on and kind of maintain that level, and maybe we'll see them back to a quarter final or a semi final next time around. And then the other African nations, I think they might kind of see that as a bit of a right. They've set the benchmark. We need to go and try and match it or better it.
It's something they've definitely been doing throughout their history, Morocco. They've been establishing the firsts, and I think when I say throughout their history, of course, they used to be part of France, and it's amazing that's a team who, the country of Morocco was once owned by France, and the year, I don't know exactly when they got independence, but the first time Morocco were entitled to enter the World Cup as a kind of sovereign nation was the year, it was 1958, which was the World Cup in which Just Fontaine scored 13 goals for France, set the record for the Golden Boot in a single tournament. And of course, he was born in Morocco, so I think, that plays a massive part in it as well. You guys like Desailly and playing for France, and Eusebio playing for Portugal, and so I think it'll maybe even encourage more players to play for their home nation, or even second generation guys to go back to go back and play for the the land of their parents, perhaps. And hopefully we'll see an African team getting to a final one day. You were talking about Benzema and how many great players France have left at home through injury. He was a guy that I'd actually forgotten about. He'd been scoring for them in the Nations League final and stuff like that. We've been talking about Kante and Pogba, and it's all these players that they've actually left at home, but still in this game, how amazing were their substitutes? They went a goal up after 5 minutes through a guy who had replaced his brother. Theo Hernandez, already showing you the depth of the squad that they took to the World Cup finals. Again, Mbappe was fantastic for that goal as well. His involvement in both goals was sensational, as was Griezmann's. But how amazing was it for them to bring on not just the son of a guy who scored in their first ever win in a World Cup semi-final, Thuram, but the guy who then scores a winner within seconds of getting on the pitch. Yeah,
it was some way to announce himself at a World Cup. I think there'll be a lot of fans kind of keeping an eye out for him at the next tournament and at the Euros. But for me, that goal was all about Mbappe's skill in terms of making the goal. He sort of danced through the Moroccan defence, for that second goal and kind of laid it on a plate. But fair play to the boy for being in the position to tuck it away, especially having just come on. So that was impressive. Showed good striking instinct, and I think the substitutes all round, they all kind of had an impact in terms of what you want subs to do. They improved France and they kind of helped them get over the line. So yeah, it was good timing from the manager, and it just shows the depth of squad. As you say, all the players they've left at home, but they're still able to bring on these quality additions that can make a real impact. There's not many squads you can say that about.
Aye, I know. They're different level. I think that's what's so frightening about them. We're looking at Argentina, and they look like they're relying on an old man. They've got these young guys running about for them, whereas France just look like they're all at the top of their game right the way across. And they keep losing players, but they still have a frighteningly deep squad. But I'm going to dig you up, Brian. I'm going to kind of grass you up here, mate. We were talking about the third, fourth place playoff off air a few weeks ago, and you were saying that you can barely remember some of the third, fourth place playoffs at a World Cup. I'm absolutely mad about this fixture. I love it. And I'm really looking forward to watching Croatia playing Morocco tomorrow. So what I'm going to totally set you up here. I hope you set me up. Tell me why you maybe had a problem with this match, the third, fourth place match, which they always say that this is the game that no team wants to play. I don't actually believe that, but why would you maybe, or other people maybe have a wee problem with it, and then I can come in with my crackpot theories about why I like it?
It's generally the forgotten game. It's not it's always the one nobody ever talks about, the third, fourth place playoff. Because generally, if you're in that match, you've lost a semi-final, and they always say that's the worst way to kind of exit a tournament is losing a semi-final, because you've got so far to that final, being one game away from it, and then losing the semi, and then you need to stay in the tournament for like an extra 5 days or whatever to go and play this third, fourth place playoff. That I'd imagine by that point, a lot of the players just kind of want to get back home and see their families and whatever, and then they need to kind of play it. But that's the intriguing thing for me about this particular one, is that I think both these nations would view it like that. For both of these nations to get third, I think particularly for Morocco, that'll be a massive achievement. If you'd have offered them third before a ball was kicked, I'd imagine they'd have, snapped your hand off for it, to be honest. Because I don't think many people would have had them as getting to a semi-final. So I think this one might be a wee bit different, whereas if you've got the tournament favourites in a third, fourth place playoff, generally they probably, put out a weakened team and stuff. But I think this one, might be a bit different. I think that adds an extra level of interest in it.
I just feel as if the very fact that we are looking at Morocco and we're hoping that they can get a decent send-off, and you're kind of looking forward to seeing them again,
Yeah.
I think that sums up why the third, fourth place playoff can be a great game. I've got to be 100% honest with you here. I love it because it lets me know who was third and fourth. I like these things to be ranked. The thing that annoys me most when I'm talking about the World Cup, the last 21 World Cups, is that in 1930, in the very first one, they didn't have a third, fourth place playoff. And that's fine. But the two teams who lost the semi-finals, Yugoslavia and the USA, both lost them exactly 6-1. They both get beat 6-1 by Argentina and Uruguay. And so you can't just turn around and even take a guess at who finished third and fourth. So that's been really annoying, kind of anal retentives like myself for years. I think it's also, and this is maybe perhaps a kind of unfair aspect of it, because there's definitely been, because certain teams don't really want to play in it, they might field all the members of their squad who weren't getting a game, throughout the, just to get guys a run out, just to say to them thanks for coming along, almost. Which means when things happen, like I'm talking earlier there about Just Fontaine scoring 13 goals, so he's still got the record for the most goals scored in one World Cup tournament. He got 4 of them in the third, fourth place playoff against Germany. They hammered Germany, France in that game. And it's like, if the opposition is kind of taking their feet off the gas, it happens so often. Like Toto Scalacci, he scored a goal when Italy beat England in the third, fourth place playoff in 1990, Italian 90, and that took him one ahead of Thomas Scaravi for the Golden Boot. I think Davor Suker, he sealed it in 1998 for Croatia with a goal in the third, fourth place playoff. And I think it tends to favour the team who are maybe in their first semi-final, lost it, and are just kind of happy to be there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a cracking game. I can almost see from a statistical point of view how it might skew things. because you get added to the kind of the major stats, but you're maybe playing in a game where people have actually taken their feet off the gas.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I think, as you say, this is going to be one where Morocco are certainly, happy to be. This will be a massive achievement if they win it. I think for them, though, the reason I would sort of favour Croatia in this one, I just think injuries are going to take its toll on Morocco. I think if they had a fully fit squad, I think I would probably maybe favour them, to be honest, because I think their kind of enthusiasm for the fixture would maybe get them over the line. But I think with the number of players they've got out, I think they might struggle. I can see Croatia winning this one. And to be honest, I think for Croatia, it's a pretty good achievement. I know they obviously got to a final previously, so some people might see it as a step backwards, but, country the size of Croatia, I think third in the World Cup's a pretty good achievement, to be honest.
Aye. Well, Croatia, when they finished second in the last World Cup, they finished third the first time in the semi-finals in 1998. So that part of me is kind of wanting them to lose, just so they finish second, third, and fourth in different World Cups. And one day they'll win it, and I can just say that's a team that's taken the top 4 places at different World Cups, But that's kind of madness that goes on in my sad head. So, are you going to be going out your way to try and watch this one tomorrow? I know a lot of neutrals maybe that this is the game they don't want. I know. I've got to be honest. I quite like the Rugby Union World Cup. I don't pay attention to Rugby Union any other time, but when the World Cup comes on, I quite enjoy, it's probably the colours and, groups and stuff like that is probably actually what attracts me to these kind of tournaments. And I remember that one year, South Africa against Argentina maybe was a third, fourth place playoff. And I thought, I'll watch it. And I just couldn't be bought. It was rubbish. I had no interest. So I think it's only because it's football that I'm actually right into this. And I wish they used to have it in the FA Cup. They tried it for 5 years in the FA Cup in the 70s, aye. They tried to have the 2 beaten semi-finalists play. I think the crowds were about 5,000, so it was quickly binned. But guys like myself like it. Right, I'm putting off the inevitable here, Brian, because I'm worried I might wet myself with excitement. France against Argentina, Argentina against France, the 22nd World Cup final. Just forget for a second the teams and players involved. Just how momentous does it feel to be watching the World Cup final?
It's the showpiece event. It's the one you want to watch. It's kind of what's been building up all this time. These, however many weeks it's been since the tournament kicked off. I can't quite remember now. It feels like I've watched, many games.
About 2 years ago.
It all just sort of blends into one, to be honest. But no, this is what it's all been leading up to. This is what you want to watch. It's what every team wants to be in. It's kind of the reason the internet essentially they all want to win it. Only so many of them have got realistic opportunity, but it's the one you want to watch. It's the one that millions of people will sit down and watch. And I think we've got all the makings of what could be a really exciting game.
The first one I remember was 1978. So this is actually my 12th. There's only been this is only 22nd World Cup, so I actually remember over half of World Cups that have ever happened. It's making me feel pretty old, but that's the crazy thing. Just that looking forward to it, I feel like a wee kid. Are you proper feeling it then, Brian? You're looking forward to it?
Yeah, it feels a bit. I'll be honest, it feels a bit weird to have Rangers back and also building up to a World Cup final. That kind of feels a bit strange for me. It's a bit, not kind of what I'm used to. But I think come tomorrow and come Sunday, I think the real excitement will start to really build up for what should be a really great game.
Last weekend we had that friendly against Bayer Leverkusen. That's the kind of thing I would normally be like, oh my God, we're playing Bayer Leverkusen because of my European football obsessions. And it just messed with my head, totally messed with my chi. I'm going to think my chakras realigned or something like that. It was just, you're taking yourself out of, football matches in a desert, the World Cup, then you're going to a freezing Ibrox on a Saturday afternoon in Govan, in December, and you're, it's definitely messing with the heads, but we'll manage to endure it, things we have to go through. You get the 2 players sitting joint top scorer, as I was saying, the 2 number 10s. They're up against each other. One's in his mid-30s, Messi. The other one's in his early 20s. Mbappe doesn't turn 24 until, I think, 2 days after the final. The 2 players that are joint second for top scorer, the 2 number 9s, are also directly up against each other, Giroud and Alvarez. They've got the exact same age gap. One's in mid-30s, one's early 20s. Each nation, France and Argentina, have won the trophy 2 times. 2 times each, and it is this trophy. Neither of them have actually won the old Jules Rimet, and only 4 players have ever been sent off in the final of the World Cup. 2 of them are Argentinian, 2 of them are French. France's team all work brilliantly for each other. Argentina worked frenziedly for Messi. Is this as perfect a matchup as a neutral could hope for, Brian?
Yeah, you've got so many narratives in there. You've kind of listed them all. The one I'm really, really looking forward to is that Messi and Mbappe. It's almost like the baton's potentially being passed from, the greatest of this generation to the greatest of the next generation in Mbappe. And I think that's the kind of matchup I'm looking forward to. I think whichever one has the better game, I think their team will come out on top. And I think Argentina maybe just want it that wee bit more because of the Messi factor. You can see this team is desperate to do it for Messi, not in a kind of arrogant sort of way, just in a way as we want to give you this send off because they know they almost feel like it's a privilege to play with him, and they just want to kind of win it for him to give him the kind of best send off possible. And I think that's what will get Argentina over the line. But I think France, if they turn up and play their best, if they go up a couple of notches that I think they're capable of, then they could definitely win it on the night. I think probably if I was looking at the 2 teams and squads, I'd say on paper France have probably got the better team. But I just think that kind of Messi factor will kind of see Argentina through. And I think, as I say, France have been playing a couple of notches below what they're capable of. And I think if they continue to play at that level, I think Argentina will get the better of them. But I think it makes for a really fascinating game.
I think when Argentina lost that game against Saudi Arabia, and I think they've had the ball in the net 4 times in the first half, 3 goals disallowed, I think. You thought this is going to go one of 2 ways. Either they're just not turned up. The pressure of getting Messi this World Cup is too much for them. It's not the way to set out a team to have them try to win a World Cup for a guy, or it's going to be just what they needed because they come into the World Cup on a back of a fantastic run, 30 odd games unbeaten, and it's like it's just reset them, and they have been getting better and better with each passing game.
So it was almost like when they got beat by Saudi Arabia, they sort of went, "Well, that's the worst thing that could have possibly happened to us. It almost can't get any worse than that. So let's just forget about that. Let's go and play our football." And that's almost freed them up in a way, a strange sort of way. And they've produced some magical moments with, the kind of magician at the centre of it. So yeah, and they're kind of hitting form right at the best time they possibly could, scoring 3 goals against Croatia. That's not an easy thing to do. So they're really coming into their form right at the best moment, and I think that'll take them through.
Because I think the way when they beat Australia, and the celebrations were so in the last 16, the celebrations were so intense. Yeah. I thought, no, I mean Australia done fantastically. I wish they held Scotland to a team as good as Australia. I don't mean any disrespect to them, especially as half of them are Scottish. But it seemed like if Argentina have got potential to win a World Cup, to be celebrating this intensely when you've just beaten Australia seemed a bit OTT, and I worried about them. I didn't think they had the legs to do it, but they've gone on and on. I think they benefited from not getting Brazil. They benefited from Croatia's work. Croatia got their kind of key players are a bit older, and by the time they met Argentina, but they've been getting really kind of coming to the boil. Whereas I think France, they started like it was too easy. And kind of rested. And it was too easy for them almost. They made it look easy. But I think the fact that Lloris is pulling off the saves the other night, and suddenly they're getting a clean sheet exactly when they need it. It seems they're getting a real bit of grit about them as well, and it's an incredible thing. That makes for just a match in general terms. But it's also this incredible thing, like you're talking about, the passing of the baton. Whereas Mbappe does not have a Champions League winners medal. He played in one final for PSG, the one that lost to Bayern in 2020. He's got a lot of Ligue 1 medals, but he doesn't have a Ballon d'Or, whereas Messi has all that in abundance. But Messi does not have a World Cup winners medal and doesn't have a goal in the final, and Mbappe already has that. And it's like there could just be a swap, It's going to be a crazy thing to watch.
The other crazy thing is Mbappe could end up with 2 World Cup winners' medals before his 24th birthday. That's incredible. That's just incredible to think about in terms of being so young and still got so much potential, as good as he already is, to think how good he could be at 26, 27, it's frightening.
For me, it's Maradona. It's still Maradona. I can't go over it. And the thing, guys, of my generation, and that's basically what it usually comes down to. Who was the best of your generation when you were I was at that kind of age in my kind of teens and early 20s, and Maradona was hitting these heights. You just adored the guy. But the big thing that's always thrown at Messi is he hasn't won a World Cup. He hasn't won a World Cup. So Maradona won one, but Pele won two, and scored in both finals. And then you have Mbappe, as you say, could have two, and he could score in this final as well. If he's done that twice, and if Messi needed the World Cup win to make him the greatest, Mbappe's got two already. Is he not the greatest? He's past Maradona, he's past Pele, and I think it's something that we're not even kind of contemplating just now. But he's been sensational. It's not like he's been hyped, and obviously Pele was before my time. But from what I can judge, from what I've watched, Pele was part of great teams with Brazil. It was a great all-round team they had in 58, 62 he got injured early doors, so didn't play in the final. But in 1970, well, everybody remembers the Brazil 1970 team. He was an integral part of it, but he was surrounded by world-class players, whereas I think Maradona has dragged a lesser side, a lesser quality side to winning the World Cup, and Messi's done the same. Mbappe again is surrounded by quality, so it shows up the bogusness of the arguments, but it's also what's making this so bloody exciting to watch on Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As for me, as you say, it's a generational thing. For me, it'll always be Messi. He was the kind of player that was at the peak of his powers as I kind of fell in love with football. I feel like, watching him for Barcelona just tear teams apart single-handedly. And good teams and big teams and Arsenal in the Champions League and the like, and just single-handedly run roughshod over them was just an incredible thing to watch. So for me, he's the GOAT, if you like, and I don't think he necessarily needs the World Cup win to cement that status. I think for him personally, he probably needs it just so he can say it, just so he's won everything essentially. I think that's what's kind of really driving him, is he's got that real need to win this, just to almost say, I've won everything I can win. And I think the players round about him buy into that. And let's be honest, they all want to win it for their own careers and, their own statuses, and, that whole squad, if they win it, will go down in history. But I think the kind of Messi factor and that kind of need and will to win, I think, is what will kind of take them to the trophy in the end.
I think you're right in what you're saying about what he's done so far. It almost doesn't need the World Cup to actually watching what he's doing in this World Cup at his age, and I think he's benefited from the fact it's been a Winter World Cup and it's come in the middle of a domestic season for him. And that's maybe a wee break he's got, and I feel it's like I'm here cheerleading and hoping for a guy who's basically a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire, and some of the sources of his money, like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, are seriously dodgy. But this is how sports washing works. You forget everything else. He came from a fairly modest background, and obviously I think when you've got the whole world watching you the way they watch him, you probably deserve your money. But I'm watching this and I'm thinking, even if he doesn't do it, almost the tragedy of him not doing it at a second attempt will escalate. It will just elevate him even further, just to get him to this stage again. Not single-handedly, obviously, but the role we played both in 2014 and this World Cup. I'm having trouble arguing against him as the greatest, and if he does win it, I'm thinking again. Honestly, a game I don't remember, the Matthews Cup final. Stanley Matthews playing the 1953 FA Cup final for Blackpool. I was on a night out that night. I never saw that one, but this is one that people always talk about. Stanley Matthews is beloved in England, the first winner of the Ballon d'Or. Stanley Matthews, and even I remember it when I was a kid. I do remember that the FA Cup was almost more important than the league in England. It's a massive thing down there, and Stanley Matthews had never won the FA Cup, played in a few finals and lost them. And the day he won it with Blackpool in 1953, I think Stan Watson, his teammates, scored a hat-trick. But they call it the Matthews Cup final, a bit like the Loudrop Cup final, where it was Gordon Jury got a hat-trick. Everybody forgets that, But I think that's what would happen on Sunday if Messi got it. Didn't matter how it happened. It could be crap the whole game, and the game's won by an own goal. It'll be his World Cup final.
I think this will be his tournament. I think if he wins it, this will be his tournament, just for the magical moments that he's given us, and that kind of shown us that even at the twilight of his career, he's still got that in his locker where he can just produce a piece of magic at the drop of a hat. There's kind of very few players that can do that, and I think this will go down as the Messi World Cup if he wins it. I very much hope that he does.
I think that makes it extra momentous, but a lot of the World Cup finals that I've watched, there's not that kind of star quality. Obviously, the minute you get to a World Cup final, that makes you a star in my eyes. But it's always the stats that keep me going as well, the kind of trivia. It's like, for example, on Sunday, we could see France become only the third side to win successive World Cups, as I was saying, and Mbappe or Griezmann, who also scored in the 2018 final, could become like the fifth or the sixth players to score in two different finals of the World Cup. I talked about Vava's record of scoring two successive finals. That's up there for Griezmann and Mbappe to equal. And there's always a chance, like, for example, somebody could become only the second player to score a hat-trick in the final. Apparently, Jeff Hurst did that in some final, but I hardly heard that mentioned. In 2018, Mbappe became the only teenager other than Pele to score in a final. And Mario Mandzukic became the first to score an OG in the final. I actually, at the stage of my life, Brian, what I do, it's this really sad thing where I've actually enjoyed watching players scoring against Scotland and Rangers because they've scored in the World Cup final. The first European match I went to, Rangers against Inter Milan back in '84, Alessandro Altobelli scored the first away goal I ever saw for Inter against Rangers. I'm like, that guy scored in the 1982 World Cup final. And Karl-Heinz Rummenigge hit the post that night. A great night for Rangers. We won 3-1. And he scored in the 86 World Cup final, Rummenigge. And I started regretting the fact that he'd hit the post at Ibrox. I wished I'd seen him hitting the back of the net. I saw Iniesta scored the win on 2010 World Cup final. And the next goal he scored was at Hampden against Scotland in a European Championship qualifier. It's something I think I saw Griezmann score over on holiday once to Madrid, and I saw Atletico Madrid against Real Sociedad, and Griezmann scored in that. I was at the Champions League final where Zidane scored, and Rudi Voller, who scored in the '86 final, I've seen him scoring twice for Marseille at Ibrox in a friendly and in the first night of the Champions League. That's how much this kind of stuff means to me, stuff that happens in a World Cup final. Do the stats or the records that are set, does that get you going, Brian, or am I just a complete weirdo on my own with this?
I'm not as big as a stats guy as you. You're the kind of man for the stats and the history. I'll never be able to trump you on that, so I won't even try. For me, I just want to see a really good game. I think a lot of World Cup finals, you don't tend to get, good games of football because of the tension and the pressure around it. It tends, the kind of star quality doesn't always tend to come to the fore. I just hope that this time we get, a real cracking game. I think with the quality on show, there's almost too good of that quality not to get a really good game.
Yeah.
There's almost too much quality on show for it not to be a really good game. So I'm just hoping for a really good game and an Argentina win.
Well, that's the one stat. 1958, Brazil 5, Sweden 2. That's the highest scoring final ever. So hopefully we get a wee repeat of that. Brian, absolute pleasure, mate. This has been great fun. I'm having to stop myself talking as usual. We'll be back, folks, with another one of these, the final one of our World Cup pods, Monday or Tuesday next week, to kind of sum up everything that's happened in this third, fourth place playoff, which everybody should watch. It's a great game. And the World Cup final, which isn't a bad game either. Brian, it's been absolutely fantastic. You enjoyed it so far, mate?
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks for joining me again and indulging me in this. Just let me rant and rave about this stuff. Brian's going to be back on Sunday in the main pod, 9:30. Mr. Gersnet himself, Colin Armstrong, will be hosting, and the boys will be joined by Chris Jack of the Herald and Evening Times. Get some proper analysis of that Hibs game and how Rangers are looking under Michael Beale. And don't let them mention the World Cup final. You'll know who's world champions at that point, Brian. Don't talk about it. Save that for our pod, because we'll be back with that, as I say, early next week. Listen, folks, thanks very much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you next week, and enjoy that World Cup final.